Storms are inevitable, but they are not permanent. Every one of us at some point in life will face a storm, whether it's emotional, financial, spiritual, relational, or physical. Storms are part of the human experience. They come without warning, and they often strike when we feel the most unprepared. But no storm lasts forever. The winds may howl, the rain may pour, and the waves may crash, but eventually they calm. And here's the truth you need to hold on to. Just because you're in a storm now doesn't mean that God has abandoned you. The presence of a storm does not mean the absence of God. In fact, sometimes it's in the storm that you come to know Him most intimately. It's in the middle of chaos that you learn He is your peace. The pain is real. The confusion is real. But so is the promise. God never said we wouldn't face hard times. He never said the road would be smooth. What He said was, I will never leave you, nor forsake you. That means even in the storm, you are not alone. Faith does not eliminate the storm. It gives you the strength to endure it. Some people think that if you just believe enough, you won't have to suffer. But faith is not a magic shield that keeps trouble away. Faith is what keeps you standing when trouble comes. Faith is what helps you keep walking when your heart is breaking and the path ahead is unclear. When the disciples were in the boat and the storm hit, Jesus didn't stop the storm immediately. He let it rage while He slept, and when they woke Him in fear, He said, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" That wasn't a rebuke. It was a reminder. A reminder that the one who controls the winds and the waves was already in the boat with them. And if He's in the boat with you, then no matter how bad it gets, you're going to make it through. You may get wet, you may get tired, but you will not go under. God never promised a life without storms, but He promised His presence in every one. Think about that. You might be praying for God to take the storm away, and sometimes He does. But more often, He chooses to walk you through it. Why? Because the storm teaches you something the sunshine never could. The storm builds endurance. The storm builds character. The storm makes you lean on Him in ways you never would have otherwise. When God is with you in the storm, He's not watching from a distance. He's holding you up, guiding your steps and strengthening your spirit. And you may not feel Him in the thunder, and you may not see Him in the rain, but He is there in the still, small whisper saying, "You are mine. I've got you. Keep going." Your current storm is not a sign of God's absence, but a setup for divine strength. What if the storm is not happening to destroy you, but to develop you? What if it's the very thing God is using to prepare you for your next season? We often measure God's faithfulness by how easy our lives are. But that's not how faith works. Some of the most powerful people in Scripture went through storms that shook them to the core. Joseph was thrown in a pit and sold into slavery. David was hunted by Saul. Job lost everything. Yet through it all, God was working behind the scenes. He didn't prevent the storm, but he gave them strength in the middle of it. That same strength is available to you. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to trust that God is up to something greater than what you can see. When you're at your weakest, God is at his strongest. It's in our moments of total surrender that God shows up in power. When you've run out of plans, when you've cried your last tear, when you feel like you have nothing left, that's when God does his best work. Because now you're not relying on your own ability, you're relying on his. And God has never lost a battle. Your weakness is not your downfall. Your weakness is not your downfall. It's your doorway to divine intervention. Paul said, when I'm weak, then I am strong. Why? Because God's power is made perfect in weakness. So if you feel like you're barely holding on, you're in the perfect position for a breakthrough. Don't despise your weakness. It might just be the catalyst for your greatest strength. The same storm that came to break you is what God will use to build you. Isn't that just like God? To take what was meant for evil and turn it for your good? To take what was sent to bury you and use it to bless you? Sometimes God allows a storm, not because he wants to hurt you, but because he wants to grow you. He knows what's inside of you. He sees potential you haven't even tapped into yet. And sometimes it takes a storm to activate the strength, the courage, the wisdom, and the faith that's been lying dormant. What came to shake you will shape you. What came to destroy your confidence will deepen your dependence on God. What came to wreck your plans will reveal his purpose. Don't curse the storm. Learn from it. Rise through it. Let it refine you, not define you. You may bend, but with God, you won't break. You might feel stretched to your limit. You might feel like you're about to snap. But the truth is, you're stronger than you think. Not because of your own might, but because the Spirit of God dwells within you. He is your sustainer. He is your comforter. And he has a way of holding you together, even when life is trying to pull you apart. The pressure may be intense. The situation may seem unbearable, but you will not break. You will come out of this, not bitter, but better. Not broken, but built. What's trying to take you out is only giving you deeper roots. Like a tree in the wind, you might sway, but you're still standing. And if you're still standing, God is still working. Peace isn't the absence of the storm, it's the presence of God in the middle of it. You can have peace even when everything around you is falling apart. That's the kind of peace God gives. It doesn't make sense to the world. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It's a peace that says, even if the worst happens, I know who holds my future. That kind of peace can't be bought. It can't be faked. It comes from a deep trust in a faithful God. It's what Jesus had when he slept through the storm. It's what you can have when you trust that no matter what's happening around you, God is still on the throne. God is the anchor when life tries to drift you off course. Life will try to pull you in every direction: fear, doubt, anxiety, disappointment. But God is your anchor. He holds you steady. He keeps you grounded. And when everything else feels like it's slipping away, He is your constant. He is your safe place. When the waves crash and the current is strong, it's the anchor that keeps the ship from drifting. And it's your faith in God that will keep you from being lost in the chaos. You might drift a little, but you won't be lost. You might feel shaken, but you won't be overtaken, because God's hand is on your life. He's not letting go. You will look back one day and realize the storm didn't drown you, it developed you. What you're walking through now is temporary, but the growth it produces is eternal. There will be a day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but there will be a day when you look back and see the purpose in the pain, the beauty in the struggle, the strength you didn't know you had. You'll see that what you thought was going to take you out actually took you higher. You realize that it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. What looks like a setback is often God preparing your comeback. Life has a way of knocking us down, but every knockdown isn't a knockout. Sometimes God lets you be set back just far enough to slingshot you forward. He's not done with your story. The chapter you're in may be dark, but it's not the end. There's a comeback on the horizon. Don't give up in the middle. Don't quit in the storm. Hold on. The wind that's against you today will be behind you tomorrow. The tears you cried in private will water the harvest you reap in public. God wastes nothing, not even your lowest moments, especially not those. The storm isn't always meant to stop. You're meant to walk through it with divine strength. God could stop the storm in an instant, but sometimes He lets it keep blowing while He builds something in you. He's teaching you to walk by faith, not by sight. He's training your spiritual muscles. He's reminding you that victory doesn't always come by avoidance. It comes by endurance. Some of your greatest testimonies will come from the storms you survived, and some of your most powerful growth will come from the battles you didn't ask for, but chose to fight with God by your side. You don't have to wait for it to end to have peace. You don't have to wait for it to end to praise. You can walk through the storm and still shine. If God allowed the storm, He's already made a way through it. Nothing catches God by surprise. He's not scrambling for a plan B. If you're in it, he's already made provision for your victory. You might not see the way right now, but he sees the end from the beginning. You might feel like you're drowning, but there's a lifeline already on the way. You may feel like this is the end, but with God, every ending is just the setup for a new beginning. Trust that the God who started the work in you will be faithful to complete it. The same God who brought you this far won't leave you now. He's already ahead of you, preparing your next step. Your survival isn't based on your strength, but on his grace. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be the strongest person in the room. His grace is sufficient. His power is made perfect in your weakness. And that grace will carry you when you can't carry yourself. That grace will comfort you when words fail. That grace will lift you when you can't get up on your own. You may stumble. You may feel defeated. But his grace is enough. You're not walking through this alone. You're being carried. And as long as God is carrying you, you will reach your destination. Even in chaos, God's plan is still in motion. Just because life looks messy doesn't mean God isn't working. He moves in mystery. He operates in silence. And he specializes in turning storms into stories of glory. Don't mistake the silence of God for the absence of God. He's still writing. He's still orchestrating. He's still fighting for you behind the scenes. When everything seems out of control, remember, he's still in control. And he's working all things together for your good. Not just the good things, all things, even this storm, especially this storm. Storms reveal what's already inside of us. They expose our fears, highlight our weaknesses, and often bring to the surface pain we thought we had buried. But they also make space for divine strength to rise. It's when your own strength fails that you begin to draw on the power of God in a new way. You stop trying to fix everything with your hands and start trusting in his. When everything around you is unstable, you begin to hunger for a rock that doesn't move. And in that desperation, you discover that God's strength is not distant. It's present. It's real. It's personal. Sometimes the storm doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to develop you. It comes to teach you how to fight with faith, how to pray with persistence, how to stand with authority, and most importantly, how to trust when you have no visible reason to. We don't often realize it, but some of the strongest people you will ever meet are those who've walked through the fiercest storms. They didn't get that strength from comfort. They got it from battle. They didn't gain peace by avoiding pain. They discovered it in the middle of heartbreak. God doesn't waste a single storm. Every drop of rain, every loud thunderclap, every sleepless night is being used to build something inside you that ease never could. Strength doesn't come from the absence of resistance. It comes from pressing through it. And when you press through with God, you come out on the other side not just intact, but transformed. what was meant to break you becomes the very thing God uses to bless you. That storm didn't come to kill you. It came to reveal the divine strength you didn't know you had. Sometimes the strength that's built in the storm doesn't show up while you're in it, but it changes how you walk after it. You come out of it more grounded, more rooted, more focused. The things that used to shake you don't shake you anymore. The same trials that used to make you panic now make you pray. You develop a kind of spiritual weight that can only be formed under pressure. That's what storms do. They refine, they remove the excess, they strip away the illusion of control. And once everything is stripped back, that's when the real strength shows. Not the fake strength, not the I've got it all together strength, but the kind of strength that says, I shouldn't have made it through that, but God sustained me. I didn't have the power, but He did. That is divine strength. Strength that doesn't come from you, it comes from Him. When you feel like you're at your weakest, that's often when you're in position to receive God's greatest strength. Because He's not impressed by our self-sufficiency. He's drawn to surrender. His power is made perfect in our weakness, not in our pride, not in our perfection, but in the places where we say, God, I can't do this without you. And that's not a failure. That's the moment when heaven leans in and says, now I can show you what I can do. God doesn't flex His strength in your life when you're doing fine. He shows up in power when you're drowning, when you've tried everything else, when your hands are trembling and your heart is tired and your soul is worn out. That's when He says, let me carry you. Let me lift you. Let me strengthen you in a way no man, no money, no method. And that's why the storm is not punishment, it's preparation. It's not a curse, it's a calling. You're being equipped with strength you didn't ask for, because God is preparing you for something greater on the other side of the rain. Sometimes He allows the storm not to change your surroundings, but to change you, to prepare you for what's next, to break off what's not needed, to strip down the ego, to confront the pride, to develop trust, to deepen your roots so you're not moved by the next wave. Because there will be more storms, but the next time you'll walk through them with a different kind of confidence, not because you know what's coming, but because you know who is coming with you. It's easy to question God in the storm. It's human to ask, why is this happening? But what if the better question is, God, what are you building in me through this? Because He's building strength, not just the kind of strength that makes you look strong, but the kind that helps others when their storms hit. The kind that speaks life into someone else's darkness. The kind that brings comfort to the broken, hope to the hopeless, and courage to the weary. Divine strength is never just for you. It's to carry others too. To become a living testimony. To say, I've been through the fire, but I didn't burn. I've been through the flood, but I didn't drown. And if God did it for me, He can do it for you too. So don't curse your current storm. Don't let the enemy convince you that this storm means you're forgotten or unloved. That is a lie. This storm is not a tomb, it's a womb. It's not the end of you, it's the birthplace of strength you didn't know you had. And when the clouds finally clear, and they will, you'll look back and see how God was shaping you in every wave, how he was holding you through every gust of wind. And that's when you'll realize the truth. That storm didn't break you. It built you. It introduced you to the kind of strength that can only come from the hand of God. So lift your head in the middle of the rain. Wipe your tears in the middle of the thunder. Don't let go of your faith just because the skies are dark. God is not absent. He's active. He's not silent. He's working. And when it's all said and done, you will not just survive this. You'll be stronger because of it. Stronger in faith, stronger in purpose, stronger in identity. Because this storm wasn't random. It was a divine setup for the release of his strength in your life. And that strength is going to carry you into your next season with boldness, authority, and unshakable peace. Faith does not eliminate storms, it sustains you through them. It doesn't cancel the challenges, it carries you in the middle of them. We often think that if we just have enough faith, life will somehow become smooth, painless, or predictable. But real faith isn't proven in the absence of problems. It's revealed in how you respond when problems come. Faith is not about avoiding the storm, it's about standing firm while the wind howls around you. Heaven above the storm, faith says. It's the quiet resolve to keep believing when everything in you wants to give up. Faith is not some fragile hope that disappears in difficulty. It's the very thing that holds you together when the pressure is on. It's waking up in the middle of your darkest hour and choosing to believe that God is still good. It's crying your eyes out, feeling the weight of disappointment, and still whispering, God, I trust you. That kind of faith doesn't remove you from the storm. It roots you so deeply in God that the storm can't uproot you. When your world feels like it's crumbling, faith becomes the foundation you stand on. It's the difference between being buried by the storm and being built by it. People may look at you and wonder how you're still standing, how you're still smiling, how you're still speaking hope. And they won't realize that it's not your own strength holding you up. It's your faith. It's your unshakable belief that God is bigger than what you're facing. But is not just present in the sunshine, but he walks with you through the rain. You may not be able to see the outcome. You may not understand the timing. But faith says, even if I can't see the way, I know the one who makes the way. That kind of trust silences fear. That kind of trust brings peace in the middle of panic. That kind of trust sustains you when nothing else can. Faith teaches you to walk on water, not because the storm disappears, but because your eyes are locked on Jesus. When Peter stepped out of the boat in the middle of the storm, it wasn't calm. The wind was still blowing, the waves were still crashing, but his eyes were fixed on Jesus, and that faith allowed him to do the impossible. It was only when he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the storm that he began to sink. And that's the same with us. The storm may still be there, but what you're focused on determines whether you walk or whether you sink. Faith is what helps you walk forward when fear tells you to stay still. Faith is what lets you say, I don't know how this ends, but I know who's in control. Faith doesn't always give you details, but it gives you direction. And sometimes that's all you need to know you're not walking alone. There's a reason Scripture says the just shall live by faith. Because in this life you will not be able to rely on feelings. Feelings change with the weather. But faith stands strong regardless of what's happening around you. You may wake up discouraged, but faith reminds you that God's mercies are new every morning. You may face rejection, but faith tells you that you are still chosen. You may hear bad news, but faith whispers that God is still in control. Faith becomes your lens, your anchor, your weapon. It helps you fight battles that seem impossible, not because you have all the answers, but because you know who your source is. Faith is not passive, it's active. It doesn't just sit back and hope. It steps forward, declares truth, speaks life, and holds on when everything else is shaking. When you're walking through a storm, you don't need perfect conditions. You need unwavering faith. That means you show up even when it hurts. You pray even when you don't feel like it. You believe even when there's no sign of change. Because faith isn't based on what you see, it's based on who God is. And God has never failed. He's not about to start now. When everything is falling apart, faith says, God, you're still holding me together. When the timeline is delayed, faith says, God, you're never late. When the diagnosis comes, when the relationship breaks, when the opportunity slips away, faith still stands and declares, God, you are my refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Faith is what carries you when your legs are too tired to move. It's what lifts you when the grief feels unbearable. It's what pushes you when life has knocked the wind out of you. That's why the enemy attacks your faith, because he knows if he can shake your faith, he can stop your progress. But if you protect your faith, if you feed your faith with truth, if you water it with prayer, if you strengthen it through worship, then no storm can stop you. You might go through fire, but you won't be burned. You might go through deep waters, but you won't drown. Because faith doesn't just help you survive, it helps you thrive. It gives you spiritual resilience. It puts steel in your soul. And make no mistake, faith doesn't mean the journey is easy. It just means you've decided to trust God anyway, even when it's painful, even when it's slow, even when it feels like nothing's changing. Faith is the bold choice to believe that God is working all things together for good, even the things you don't understand. Faith says, I might not have a sign, but I have a Savior. It's the refusal to give in to fear. It's the courage to wait patiently. It's the fire in your soul that says, no matter what comes, I will not be moved. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of faith opens doors. That kind of faith invites miracles. Sometimes your faith won't change the situation, but it will change you. It will make you stronger. It will grow your patience. It will deepen your trust. Because storms have a way of stripping us down to what really matters. They remove the fluff. They silence the noise. And they expose what's real. And in those moments, faith becomes more than just a word. It becomes your survival, your anchor, your heartbeat. It's what gives you the strength to say, even if the storm doesn't pass today, I'm not giving up. Because I know the one who's holding me through it. And when you come out of that storm, and you will, you'll realize that faith wasn't just something you had. It was the very thing that carried you. So don't despise the storm. Don't despise the season of testing. Don't run from the pressure. Lean into your faith. Stand firm on what God promised. Remember what he's already brought you through. If he did it before, he will do it again. Your faith is not in vain. Your prayers are not pointless. Your tears are not wasted. Every step you take in faith is taking you closer to your breakthrough. Every time you refuse to quit, you're making a statement that your God is greater than your circumstance. And he will honor that kind of faith. He will reward it. He will breathe on it. He will take your little mustard seed and move mountains with it. Faith doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet whisper saying, I will try again tomorrow. Sometimes it's the trembling hand that reaches for the Bible one more time. Sometimes it's just showing up, heartbroken, confused, frustrated, but still showing up. That's faith. That's strength. That's courage. And that kind of faith is never wasted in God's kingdom. He sees it. He honors it. He moves for those who trust him. So if you're walking through a storm right now, hold your head up. Wipe your tears. Remind yourself of this truth. Faith doesn't cancel the storm, but it will carry you through it. And one day soon, you'll look back and realize that it wasn't the storm that defined you. God never promised a life without storms, but he promised his presence in every one. That truth alone can shift your entire perspective when life feels like it's falling apart. We sometimes come to believe, consciously or not, that walking with God should protect us from the storms. That somehow our obedience, our prayers, our faithfulness should build a shield around us that keeps hardship far from our doorstep. But the Bible never says we won't go through storms. In fact, it shows us that even the most faithful, Job, David, Paul, even Jesus, faced storms. The promise was never immunity from life's troubles. The promise was Emmanuel, God with us. That's what changes everything. The assurance that even in the middle of the chaos, we are not alone. That when the wind howls and the rain pours, we have a shelter that will not fail. There is something powerful about knowing you are not abandoned in your darkest hour. When the storm comes and the sky turns black and everything you've counted on feels shaky, That's when the presence of God becomes more than a belief. It becomes your breath, your anchor, your lifeline. And he doesn't show up as a distant God watching from afar. He steps into the storm with you. He walks with you through the valley. He stands beside you in the furnace. He holds you when you cry. You may not always feel it, but his promise is sure. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not even in the worst storm. Not when you feel forgotten. Not when the weight is crushing. He doesn't walk away when it gets messy. He draws even closer. The storms of life are often where we discover who God really is. It's in the storm that we stop relying on our own strength. It's in the storm that the noise of the world is drowned out and we're forced to listen deeper. It's in the storm that his presence becomes undeniable, unforgettable, unshakable. Anyone can praise God on the mountain, but it's in the valley, in the downpour, in the confusion, in the disappointment that we learn the depth of his love. He doesn't just calm storms. Sometimes he carries us through them so we can know what it means to trust him with every breath, so we can learn what faith really is, so we can walk away from the wreckage not bitter, but bolder, not broken, but blessed. God's presence doesn't mean the storm will stop right away. Sometimes the wind keeps blowing. Sometimes the thunder keeps rolling. But even then, his presence sustains you. It holds you together when you should have fallen apart. It gives you peace that doesn't make sense. Have you ever been in the middle of a trial so painful, so uncertain, yet somehow you felt calm? That wasn't denial. That was the supernatural peace of God. That was him wrapping his arms around you and whispering, I've got you. You might not have the solution yet. The outcome may still be unclear, but you have his presence. And that's enough to get through one more day. It's in the storm that our faith is tested, refined, and strengthened. You don't build endurance in calm waters. You don't learn to trust when everything's going your way. But when the storm rages and you still choose to believe, that's when faith becomes real. That's when your roots grow deep. That's when your spirit matures. And God uses those storms not to punish you, but to prepare you. He doesn't waste pain. He doesn't allow the wind and the waves for no reason. There is purpose in the pressure. There is development in the downpour. Sometimes he allows the storm so that what's shaky in your life will be exposed and what's solid will be strengthened. When you understand that his presence is the promise, not the absence of problems, you start to walk differently. You stop trying to escape every trial and start asking, God, what are you teaching me through this? You stop panicking every time the sky darkens and start saying, even in this, I know you are with me. That's a different level of peace. That's a deeper level of trust. That's maturity. It doesn't mean you won't cry. It doesn't mean you won't have questions. But it means your faith isn't based on your feelings. It's rooted in the character of God. And he is faithful even in the storm. Sometimes we think the storm is a sign that God has left us, but often the storm is where he shows up the strongest. Remember the disciples in the boat? The wind was violent, the waves were crashing, and where was Jesus? Right there with them. In fact, he had been asleep in the boat. Because the storm didn't scare him, the chaos didn't shake him. He was at peace because he is peace. And when the disciples cried out, he got up and spoke to the storm, and it obeyed. That's the God who rides in your boat. Sometimes God calms the storm around you, but sometimes he calms you in the middle of it. Both are miracles. Both are signs of his love. And both are ways he draws you closer. Don't miss the blessing of his presence by waiting for perfect conditions. Don't miss the nearness of God because you're focused on the noise. Right in the middle of the mess, he's whispering, I'm here. In the stillness of the night, when no one sees your tears, he's there. When the diagnosis drops, when the phone rings with bad news, when your plans crumble, he's already present. He doesn't wait for the sunshine to arrive. He's an ever-present help in trouble. There is no storm too strong to keep God away from you. No distance too far. No failure too deep. His love chases you through the thunder. His mercy finds you in the fog. And his grace will carry you when you have no strength left. That's the power of his presence. It doesn't remove all storms, but it transforms you in them. It teaches you to rely on him completely. It teaches you to release control, to surrender, to stop fighting alone. Because when you finally lay it down, when you finally say, God, I can't do this without you, that's when his power shows up in full force. He promises presence, not perfect days. And that promise is more powerful than any guarantee of ease. Because storms may come, but they also pass. The winds may blow, but they won't blow forever. And when you walk through the fire with God by your side, you come out not just alive, you come out changed. You come out stronger, wiser, deeper. You come out with a testimony, and the same presence that carried you through the storm will empower you to encourage others in theirs. That's how purpose is born from pain. That's how ministry flows from misery. When you've seen God hold you in the storm, you carry that kind of faith with you for life.